As we're going through the Bible book by book and chapter by chapter, we're in Exodus chapter 35. When we look at the beginning of this chapter, there's going to be two major themes that run throughout it. There's going to be the theme concerning the Sabbath day, and then there's going to be the theme concerning the tabernacle and its construction. About the Sabbath day, we tend to think of it as something that was limiting to the people of Israel. We tend to look at it as something that was restrictive or something that was intended to be a burden on these people. And really, that happens more because of the way that the people in Jesus' day tended to view the Sabbath. You have the Pharisees and the Sadducees who seem to agree, for the most part, about a lot of the regulations concerning the Sabbath because it was in their legal law, their legal code in the Talmud, in all the rabbinical literature. But Jesus clarifies this when he says that man wasn't made for the Sabbath, but Sabbath was made for man. One of the cool things about the Sabbath is it's the world's first weekend. I mean, we think about having a 5-day work week in the United States, and everybody looks forward to that weekend. Well, in the ancient world, there's no weekend. Most cultures divided things up by weeks, the 7-day period, in order to keep track of time. But very few cultures, I can't think of any off the top of my head, who had an institutionalized weekend where these are days that you don't work. Now, in Jesus' time, the Roman Empire had many different feasts and festivals, but those aren't weekends. Every day was the same. Every day was a work day. In the nation of Israel and the Hebrew people, they have the Sabbath day. The last day of the week is a day off from work, from all the menial tasks. And these regulations that you see Moses imposing, it's not to keep a family from doing things that they need to do in order to make their house run. It's in order to keep the taskmasters. It's to keep the people who would be forcing labor on them from being able to do that. You don't work on the Sabbath day. You just don't. It's against the law. It carries the penalty of death. And so what you have is a day mandated by God because of his holiness in order for the people of Israel to focus on that holiness, to set apart time to study God's law, to think about the great things that God has done. A day that is completely dedicated to nothing other than basking in the glory and the holiness of the Creator God who has set you apart as his particular people. What an incredible thing. And in the country that we live in the United States, you get 2 days a week to do that. You get Saturday and Sunday as your weekend where you can go and you can focus on things that are most important to you. And shame on us if we don't use that time off from that standard work week to focus on God. Shame on us if we use that time to focus only on me and only on what I want. We need to be like these people who had that time off to think about, to focus on, to glorify their Lord, who is also ours. You go through the rest of chapter 35, and Moses is going to begin by talking to the congregation of people about the tabernacle, or about the tent of meeting, about all the things that were going to be necessary in order for the various pieces of furniture and even the tent itself to be constructed. I mean, it's going to have, there's lots of gold, there's lots of specialized types of wood, specialized types of fabric. They need to collect these things to build it. And so Moses comes and he says, "Whoever is of a generous heart, let him bring the Lord's contribution. Gold, silver, bronze, blue and purple, scarlet yarns, and fine twined linens, goat's hair, tanned ram skin." It's going to go on down throughout the rest of chapter 9. And then he'll say in chapter 10, "Let every skillful craftsman among you come and make all that the Lord has commanded." And so right here, there's two things that we can see that are very important. We can give stuff to further God's cause. We can give stuff like they did to build the tabernacle. And we can also give time and efforts and special talents. Often when we talk about giving, we only talk about money. Because, let's face it, in our culture tends to focus on money. Power is where the money is. If you have money, you can buy power. You can buy just about anything you want. But money isn't the only thing that we can give to God. And money isn't the only thing God asks for. He asks for us to use our talents to serve him, to use our time to serve him. And we should be using our talents and our time to serve him. Another thing we need to notice is that this is all done freely. This isn't done under compulsion. It's not a commandment. You must give. It's whoever has a generous heart will give these things. And when you look down throughout the rest of this passage, it would say, "And everyone whose heart stirred him, everyone whose spirit moved him, brought the Lord's contribution to be used for the tent of meeting, for all its service, and for all the holy garments." Notice this isn't God making people do this. It's not God's spirit compelling people. It's their hearts, their spirits being moved. And so they heard Moses come before the congregation and say, "Hey, hey guys, we need to get some stuff together so we can build this tent of meeting, so we can worship the Lord, so we can do all the things we need to be doing. And their hearts were stirred within them so that they gave abundantly so that the work of the Lord could be completed. And when we look at our own personal lives and how we use our talents and the things God has blessed us with, man, I hope we can say the same thing about what we're doing every day, that our hearts are stirred within us, our spirits are moved to serve the Lord, and we give abundantly out of our possessions, but I really think more importantly, out of the skills and the talents that we have and the time that we've been blessed with. We need to give abundantly from those things, especially to the Lord. And as we're going through the Bible, book by book and chapter by chapter, this is Exodus chapter 35.